The National News Desk, locally covered, nationally connected. This is the National News Desk, America's News. Now, I'm Dee Dee Gatton, and we begin with breaking news outside of Minneapolis. Another tragic day in the Twin Cities. 2 children dead, ages 8 and 10, 14 other children and 3 adults injured. 7 of those children are in critical condition right now as a shooter opened fire on the Annunciation Catholic School at 8:30 this morning. You are watching the scenes, the tragic scenes playing out earlier. Authorities say the shooter died by suicide. This is what we know so far. The shooter, who brought multiple firearms onto the school campus, shot through a window directly at the children during morning mass. The police described it as a deliberate act of violence against children. The Minneapolis police chief confirming the suspect as 23-year-old Robin Westman. Law enforcement officials telling NBC they obtained writings by the suspect, including extremely violent thoughts and ideas in a suicide note. FBI Director Kash Patel says Robin was born of male named Robert. He also says today's shooting is being investigated as an act of domestic terrorism as well as a hate crime targeting Catholics. Minnesota governor making a plea to everyone around the country as the community is in shock and mourning.
So I ask the rest of the folks around the country who are watching, keep us in your thoughts and prayers, but also keep us in the thoughts for action. Keep us in the ideas that we can work together. And it's on these days like this, I think, and I hope we can hold on to it. We are unified as a community. Everybody across the country today is part of the Annunciation Parish, and they're with those families.
And these families will continue to be in our thoughts and prayers. President Donald Trump has ordered government flags to be lowered to half-staff from now until sunset on Sunday night, quote, as a mark of respect for the victims of the senseless acts of violence. We will continue to monitor all developments throughout the night. We'll have coverage for you, both on air and online at thenationaldesk.com. Washington, D.C. leaders led by Mayor Muriel Bowser addressing the federalized law enforcement takeover of our nation's capital this afternoon. Over the last month, the mayor has pushed back on the president's use of the National Guard, but today seemed to acknowledge the benefits that have come from the extra boots on the ground.
For carjackings, the difference between this period, this 20-day period of this federal surge and last year represents a 87% reduction.
The mayor likened the correlation between carjacking numbers and overall safety, saying as that crime goes down, neighborhoods feel safer. The mayor also spoke about the need for hiring at least 500 new police officers for the city. She plans that increase to take a few years. Also in Washington, D.C., the Department of Transportation now taking control of Union Station. Amtrak has been in charge of the main transportation hub since last year, but they did so in coordination with the Federal Railroad Administration, an agency of the DOT. Secretary Sean Duffy says this is not a power play.
Union Station is frankly owned by DOT. We are going to take DOT from our partners back under DOT control, and we are going to make the investments to make sure that this station isn't dirty, that we don't have homelessness in Union Station.
Duffy made the comments at a news conference for the inaugural ride of the next-gen Acela high-speed rail train from Union Station to New York's Penn Station. Duffy says these trains can carry more passengers with quicker travel and will reduce costs. He wants these trains to be available across the U.S.
I would love to see high-speed rail in America. I don't think it should just be China, Europe, Japan, others that have high-speed rail. I think America deserves high-speed rail.
President Trump's additional tariffs on India taking effect Wednesday, bringing total import taxes on most Indian products coming to the U.S. to 50%. National correspondent Acha Elnishar reports on how India is responding by turning to America's adversaries.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi was one of the first world leaders President Trump hosted at the White House to start his second term.
The relationship with India and with the Prime Minister has never been better.
Flash forward 6 months, not only is that relationship on thin ice as Trump slaps India with 50% tariffs, but strained ties with the U.S. have nudged India closer to one of America's biggest adversaries and a country that India, at least until very recently, considered a rival, China. Modi heading to Beijing this weekend, his first time to China since 2018, to attend a summit hosted by Chinese President Xi Jinping. Beijing and New Delhi, each in the throes of a trade war with Washington, are reopening commerce with each other.
We have remained engaged with the Chinese side to facilitate the resumption of border trade.
Half of Trump's tariffs on India's products are over its purchases of Russian oil.
What President Trump is doing is he's beginning to put more and more pressure on Russia so that we can get the peace deal that he's working so hard to achieve. And the bottom line is that we've had long trade negotiations with India. They haven't been particularly productive.
Last year, the U.S. imported more than $87 billion worth of Indian goods, according to government data. Top products include clothing, pharmaceuticals, and electronics. India calls the tariffs unjustified, saying they won't be made to compromise their interests. Here was their external affairs minister last week.
It's funny that you have people who work for a pro-business American administration accusing other people of doing business.
That business not expected to stop as Russia accounts for more than a third of India's oil imports. Russian President Vladimir Putin is expected to be in Beijing this weekend with Modi, Xi, and other Asian leaders. And Russian media reports Putin is also expected to visit India sometime before the end of the year. In Washington, I'm Atral Nashar.
China refuses to participate in denuclearization discussions with the U.S. and Russia that President Trump said he hoped would happen. Today, a Chinese official said it was neither reasonable nor realistic to expect China to take part. According to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, Russia has nearly 4,400 nuclear warheads. The U.S. has around 3,700, and China has 500 as of last year. President Trump is sparking backlash from some of his strongest supporters after saying he would allow hundreds of thousands of Chinese students to study in the United States. The National News Desk, Kayla Gaskins, has a story from Washington.
During Tuesday's cabinet meeting, President Trump floated giving visas to 600,000 Chinese students to study at American universities.
I'm honored to have the students from China come here, and we're just getting along very well with China.
The figure is more than double the current amount of Chinese students in the U.S. The comments catching many of his supporters off guard. It would be a big shift from the administration's own student visa restrictions.
I like that other countries' students come here. And you know what would happen if they didn't? Our college system would go to hell very quickly. You'd have, and it wouldn't be the top colleges. It would be colleges that struggle on the bottom. And you take out 300,000 or 600,000 students out of the system.
Back in May, Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced the U.S. would aggressively revoke visas for Chinese students, including those with connections to the Chinese Communist Party or studying in critical fields, touting the policy as putting America first, not China. Rubio sat right next to the president as he spoke Tuesday, Trump maintaining he and his Secretary of State are still on the same page.
With that, we check and we're careful and we see who's there, and Marco wants that. We spoke. We're in the same position.
MAGA loyalists jumping in to voice their opposition. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene writing on X, "Why are we allowing 600,000 students from China to replace our American students' opportunities? We should never allow that." And MAGA influencer Laura Loomer writing, "Now that we are importing 600,000 CCP spies, what's the point of American students going into STEM?"
Indeed, China has long been one of the top two countries to send international students to American universities, along with India. China's President Xi Jinping's daughter actually graduated from Harvard University in 2014.
And you're right, enrollment has certainly been under scrutiny, under a microscope, especially recently. What does this apparent change, Kayla, of heart from President Trump mean in the big picture for U.S.-China relations?
Well, some analysts say this announcement could be seen as a softening of the administration's America First stance, especially when it comes to student visas. But it also highlights the delicate balance right now that the U.S. is trying to maintain with China, especially as the two countries continue to spar over trade, technology, and national security. So while the announcement sparks pushback at home, it also signals an effort to keep educational and economic ties with China intact, at least for now. Didi.
Live from Washington, D.C., Kayla Gaskins, thank you. The nation's largest civil rights organization is asking a U.S. district court to block the new Texas congressional map. The NAACP filed an amended complaint that claims the recently passed district map is unconstitutional and dilutes the voting strength of people of color. Texas Governor Greg Abbott and Secretary of State Jane Nelson are named as plaintiffs. A grand jury has declined to indict a man who threw a sandwich at a Customs and Border Protection agent in Washington, D.C. This moment, it went viral. Sean Charles Dunn, we have learned, you see it right there, a Justice Department employee who's since been fired, was charged with assault for the attack earlier this month. The unusual decision not to indict him reflects continued backlash against President Trump's federal takeover of D.C. law enforcement. Kilmar Abrego Garcia wants asylum in the U.S. That's what his lawyers told a federal judge today. The judge ruled Abrego Garcia cannot be deported until at least early October. So the Trump administration can testify to why he should be deported. For now, he's able to await trial at his home in Maryland with his wife and kids. While Garcia's deportation is on hold, immigration advocates have long monitored these flights on publicly accessible websites. One advocate says he tracked just under 6,000 flights from the start of President Trump's second term through July. That would be a 40% increase from 2024, though there are probably more. Neither airlines nor ICE have commented on the report.
It's extremely important to survive. I have to have rides wherever I go in fear of getting stopped with an invalid driver's license.
Many people in Nevada are having to change their plans as DMVs and other state agencies remain closed because of a cyber attack. Even some third-party DMV service providers have been affected since the outage began Monday. The governor's office says they don't suspect any personal information was stolen. DMV officials are scrambling to reschedule missed appointments. New development, some FEMA employees are now on leave after signing a dissent letter earlier this week. The Associated Press reporting over 180 current and former employees sent a letter to Congress Monday critiquing recent cuts and changes at the agency. Some people signed their names while others signed anonymously out of fear of retribution. At least 21 signers were told yesterday they'd been placed on unpaid leave indefinitely. Cracker Barrel bringing back its old logo less than a week after its new design was met with intense backlash. This new image, it featured a similar look. You can see it right there. Well, ditching the barrel and the man leaning on it, it got a lot of criticism, including from President Donald Trump, who urged the company to return to its previous logo. In a statement, the restaurant chain wrote, "We said we would listen, and we have. Our new logo is going away, and our old timer will remain." 14 people have been arrested after they were linked to over 600 thefts across 71 Home Depot stores, according to authorities in California. 9 are facing felony charges, and millions of dollars in property has been seized. Officials claim the suspects stole expensive electrical items and resold them for cheaper. They're calling it the largest organized retail theft operation in Home Depot's history. The Rhode Island Special Assistant Attorney General, seen getting arrested in a viral video, has pleaded no contest to trespassing. This means she's not admitting guilt, but will accept a conviction. Devin Hogan Flanagan was arrested on August 14th outside a Newport restaurant after a body cam video showed her refusing to leave when asked and repeatedly telling officers, "I'm an AG." She was placed on unpaid leave for 6 months. Coming up, the country that's accusing multiple Americans of spying on one of its territories and trying to influence its society. Then, the latest restrictions on COVID vaccines for this fall, plus the new step you'll have to take to get one. Later, the new, kinder and gentler way of talking to patients that's now part of training for future doctors. We're back in 90 seconds. President Donald Trump is planning to hold a meeting in the White House today, focusing on the future of Gaza after the war in the Middle East finally ends. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff says attendees will talk about the Trump administration's comprehensive plan for the area. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is also set to meet with Israel's foreign minister today. Meantime, Denmark summoning the U.S. envoy for talks following allegations that Americans are conducting covert influence operations in Greenland. A Danish public broadcaster investigation found at least 3 American men connected to President Trump are doing so. Denmark's foreign minister says attempts to interfere in the country's internal affairs are unacceptable. Kroger is expected to lay off nearly 1,000 corporate employees. The Cincinnati-based grocery company said it was reorganizing and shifting resources to reinvest in its stores. Kroger will focus on lower prices, new stores, and more store jobs. The layoffs will not impact manufacturing or distribution facilities. The company has been downsizing since the former CEO resigned in March. For the second consecutive week, new mortgage demand has barely budged. According to the Mortgage Bankers Association, the number of applications to buy a home dipped by 0.5 percentage point last week, hardly a blip. The average rate is still hovering around 6.7%. Mortgage rates haven't moved at all this week either, despite the Fed chair hinting of interest rate cuts next month. Pfizer says its latest COVID shot is now FDA approved, but only for people with at least one high-risk health problem and all seniors. It is a change from previous fall seasons when COVID vaccines were recommended for most people. Health Secretary RFK Jr. added in an X post today that patients will need to ask their doctors before getting the shots. Sharks may have to change how they eat to survive in the future. That's according to researchers at Heinrich Heine University. A new study in Frontiers in Marine Science found water with higher acidity can damage shark teeth. Seawater has become 30% more acidic in the last 200 years. This could impact several different ocean species and ecosystems. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering issues that matter to you. We are taking the pulse of America, and we start with a change in how students with disabilities graduate high school in Florida.
Seeing your child walk across the stage, a moment Vladimir Baldalamar will never forget.
He was so proud that I remember the day of the graduation. He was wearing his cap and gown like like at 5 in the morning, and he was walking around, and he was so proud. And it's a very proud moment. It's just amazing.
But now that special moment could look different for students like Andrew. The certificate of completion given to students with disabilities who can't meet all the requirements for a standard diploma has been removed by House Bill 1105, a diploma many relied on to finish high school and move into the workforce. The Florida Department of Education says the change is meant to expand diploma options, not limit them. Students with disabilities will have new pathways, including academic, career, and employment-based diplomas.
Big changes are coming to Austin's water restrictions. City is moving from stage 2 drought restrictions to its baseline conservation stage, the lowest level in Austin's drought plan.
I expect all the cities that use the Highland Lakes have been changing their drought stages also.
The reason for the change, July's extensive rain, which brought devastating flooding to parts of central Texas.
It filled up the reservoirs that quickly. And typically that's the way it works with the Highland Lakes. It goes up very quickly, and then it goes down over 3 or 4 years and then fills up again.
The new rules take effect September 2nd.
It is great to see them this full, but we also have to recommit ourselves to continue to be more water efficient and to look out in the future. We never know when the next drought will start. It really starts after the last rain, but we never know when that last rain will be. So we always need to be water efficient going forward, whether the lakes are 50% or 95%.
Coming up, the future of medicine and treatment for patients might be focusing on something in addition to just what ails you. We'll explain in 90 seconds. Faith and medicine are now being given a top priority in a new training program for primary care doctors. Medical reporter Liz Bonas shares how this prescription adds to medical success.
Hey there, everybody. The future of medicine is in good hands, at least if you talk to students embracing a kinder, gentler way of caring for patients.
Gone are the days in this nursing program at Ohio's Xavier University where you would consider only a patient's physical needs. The university now in construction for a first-of-its-kind medical school.
We will be the first Jesuit Catholic osteopathic medical school in the world.
Dr. Stephen Helm is the dean of this new proposed College of Osteopathic Medicine here. From a medical perspective,
that focuses on mind, body, spirit, the importance of the individual patient, and our physicians typically go into primary care and serve rural and often underserved communities.
The goal, this team of staff and students told me, is to not only address a critical future need to train more primary care doctors, but to train them in a way that looks at the needs of the whole person.
I think that we've absolutely been able to interact with those mind, body, and spirit principles.
These students say it will be an extension of what they've learned in their health-related undergraduate programs.
Healthcare is for everyone.
The college on Xavier's campus expected to offer extensive training in areas not always emphasized in traditional medical school programs: lifestyle prescriptions for prevention, extensive nutrition training, and a push to extensively care for a patient and a provider's mental health.
Just look around you and make sure everyone is okay.
In addition, compassion and listening takes a high priority in osteopathic care.
There's just a lot of energy and movement towards that.
And so does holistic communication, Dr. Helm says.
Their family issues and challenges, their personal issues, their work issues. I mean, it's all part of, I think, caring for patients.
Now, this first Jesuit College of Osteopathic Medicine program begins enrolling students next year. With your health news, I'm Liz Bonus reporting.
Breaking news, we have learned the director of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is now out of the job. Unnamed sources familiar with the situation say Suzanne Munarez was fired less than 2 months after starting. The Department of Health and Human Services writing, "We thank her for her dedicated service," but didn't say why she is leaving. Coming up next year, another successful test launch of the SpaceX Starship rocket complete. What made this launch so unique? We'll tell you more right after this. SpaceX just pulled off another successful test of the largest rocket in human history.
3, 2, 1. We have liftoff.
And there it goes. The Starship mega rocket blasted off from South Texas after 2 failed previous attempts last week. The rocket ignited 33 engines that sent it roaring up to space. What makes this launch unique, the spacecraft and booster rocket that went up are reusable, and they both achieved successful splashdowns on opposite sides of the world. Yesterday's launch was the first successful test SpaceX has had with this craft since November of last year. NASA and SpaceX both hope this will help astronauts back to the moon before this decade ends. A hospital in London today opened a time capsule buried by Princess Diana back in the 90s. So fascinating to look at all of this. It was a snapshot of the decade. A Kylie Minogue CD, remember those? A pocket television set and other artifacts once considered cutting edge. They were provided by a group of children in 1991 and buried at the Great Ormond Street Hospital, where Diana previously served as president. The time capsule was supposed to be open hundreds of years from now. It was dug up early. Our coverage continues tonight on the horrific shooting at a Catholic school church in Minneapolis. I spoke with a national school safety expert. That interview tonight at 10.